One night a student named Mahiro is attacked by a monster. He screams for help and a girl who calls herself the Crawling Chaos Nyarlathotep responds and saves him. The next morning she excitedly congratulates herself and compliments human food and TV shows. Mahiro tosses a fork at her and demands an explanation for the night before, and Nyarko introduces herself as the Crawling Chaos deity from the Cthulu mythos. He is confused because she is supposed to look monstrous, and she says that if she revealed her true form he would go insane. She is actually an alien and part of the Planetary Defense Organization, as are the rest of the Cthulu gods. As an officer, she fights against the galaxy-wide threats such as alien human traffickers, and that she has come to protect him against the slave trade. She has an assignment to guard him 24/7, and Mahiro is flattered to have a protector. Nyarko tells him they must evacuate the house, but she just wanted to go read indecent manga and video games. Mahiro stops her from going overboard, and she explains that because Earth's media have become so famous throughout the galaxy, the Defense Organization has deemed Earth a critical planet to protect. She also secretly desires to smuggle some human contraband for herself, and Mahiro records her confession. After Nyarko finishes shopping, she reveals to Mahiro she also took the mission because he was seriously her type, and Mahiro demands she separate her business from her personal life. Suddenly, Nyarko saves Mahiro again from another monster and shows off her space close quarters combat skill, and Mahiro is shocked with how brutal she is against the monster. Mahiro thanks Nyarko for her help and she tries to extract a kiss from him as thanks. The next day Mahiro goes to school thankful that Nyarko did not follow him. But Nyarko actually transfers into his school announcing herself as the Crawling Chaos. The class is amazed of Nyarko's athletics and academic skill, but Mahiro is just tired of her antics. Tamao, a student reporter, confronts Mahiro over Nyarko's comments that the two of them are romantic, and Mahiro tries to deny the allegation. Nyarko prepares a boxed lunch for Mahiro, but when he denies the lunch she cries and wins the sympathy of the class. He is surprised that she actually has good cooking, but when he tastes the food he finds it tastes weird. Nyarko tries to play innocent, but accidentally reveals that she uses monsters for meat. During the lecture a monster arrives to attack Mahiro, but he catches Nyarko sleeping on the job. They fake sickness to confront the monster, and Nyarko uses her pet Shantakun to fight the monster because she is feeling lazy. But Shantakun is easily defeated. Nyarko fights the monster herself with her close combat style and easily defeats the monster, even as the brutality makes Mahiro sick. That night Nyarko approaches Mahiro in the bath for a reward, but he fights her off. Over the next few days they are constantly attacked by monsters, and Nyarko easily deals with them, using her close combat grenade techniques. Mahiro wonders if they can attack the monster's base directly, and Nyarko casts a ritual to stop time and summon Dagon Kun, a water taxi, so that they can confront the monsters at Arlai, a city within the Cthulu mythos. Mahiro watches in horror as several monsters appear also on water taxis, all heading to Arlai, which is actually the galaxy's biggest theme park. Nyarko marvels over the rides and the merch, and Mahiro keeps them focused on the task at hand. Nyarko uses her god senses to find the monsters, and she gives him an engagement ring. When he rejects it, she reveals it's actually a protection charm. They walk into the auction house and are confronted by Nodens, who reveals that they are in an arena full of monsters. Nodens reveals Nyarko's opponent, a Scythian named Kyuko who attended space kindergarten and elementary school with Nyarko. As Kyuko is a living flame, Nyarko is actually weak to her, and the duel starts badly for Nyarko. Nodens sends them into his personal dimension where Nyarko is weakened, and Kyuko tells Nyarko she will never escape. Nyarko tries to fight with her grenades but is stopped by Kyuko's lasers. Nyarko dodges and fights well against the lasers, but when Kyuko summons several more she is defeated. A captured Nyarko is attacked by Kyuko, who professes her love for the Nyarlathotep. Nyarko is confused because their races are meant to be sworn enemies, and she rejects Kyuko because she is fated to love Mahiro. Kyuko decides that Mahiro must die as a result. The threat against Mahiro's life reinvigorates Nyarko, who decides to fight seriously. She transforms into her enhanced close combat form, and an angry Nyarko easily defeats Kyuko. Meanwhile, Mahiro uses the protection charm, and Nyarko emerges from the charm as the crowd panics and runs. Nodens retreats because his plan failed, but Nyarko prevents him from leaving until he reveals that he kidnapped Mahiro to star as the protagonist for a boys' love show in space. Nyarko and Mahiro defeat Nodens in response. Since the mission is over, Mahiro thanks Nyarko for saving and protecting him, and Nyarko is happy to see him express love. Nyarko teleports away because her mission is over. But that night Mahiro finds Nyarko still hanging around his house, and she reveals that although her main mission was completed, she still needs to guard him against future threats from space. She imagines a lovely couple's life with Mahiro, who quickly loses his patience. and cloaked figure laughs after murdering all the gods in the dreamlands. He declares Nyarko will be his next target. Meanwhile, Nyarko is trying to feed Mahiro as a pretext for kissing him, which pisses Mahiro off, and he stabs her with a fork. She finds that his fork attacks her and wonders if he has some family history of god hunters. Upset that he won't accept her love, she tries to call him big brother to his dismay, and he states that he doesn't want a thousand-faced little sister. Mahiro notices a strange creature eating their breakfast, and Nyarko proclaims this is Shantakun, who had previously been defeated in his duel. Mahiro finds the small Shantakun surprisingly cute, and after he pets its chest, Nyarko insists he rub her chest as well, which he absolutely refuses. Shantakun wants to follow them to school, but he can't. Unknown to them, the Dreamlands murderer watches from afar. At school, they hear news that there will be a new transfer student, and they have a bad feeling, which is quickly confirmed when Kyuko arrives and calls Nyarko her wife. They are horrified and attack her. Kyuko keeps trying to act affectionate, and Nyarko proclaims something is wrong with her. Kyuko tells them she has joined the Planetary Defense Organization thanks to her uncle's connections, and she states that she was sent by the organization to help Nyarko investigate the murder of several gods in the Dreamland. The chief has assigned Kyuko to be Nyarko's new partner, and they will use Mahiro's house as their base of operations. At first, Mahiro refuses to help them until Kyuko promises that after their mission she will definitely take Nyarko away from Earth. At gym class that day, Kyuko can't help but admire Nyarko in her swimsuit. Tamao interviews Kyuko and is impressed that Nyarko has 2 marriages. Nyarko just tries to get Kyuko off of her. Meanwhile, Nyarko's enemy has been standing on too many rooftops, and he is forced to flee from the police. He manages to give them the slip and curses Nyarko for her alleged control over government forces. While swimming, Kyuko is so excited she starts to steam the pool. She tries to jump on Nyarko, who dodges the flaming girl because she wants to keep her skin soft for Mahiro. She throws her weapon at Kyuko and misses, but accidentally hits the enemy who was crawling up the building. Mahiro and Nyarko have lunch on the rooftop, and Mahiro is suspicious that the lunch looks normal. He wonders why there are so many eggs in the dish, and Nyarko reveals that Shantakun laid a lot of eggs that morning. Kyuko tries to have some of Nyarko's home-cooked lunch and bribes them with a rare cake she got from one of her gamer friends. She teases the delicious cake, and Nyarko can't help herself and agrees to trade for the cake. Nyarko is forced to feed Kyuko to her dismay. After lunch, Kyuko describes their mission and that the murderer is a homeless and unemployed Nyarlathotep. They plan to go to the Dreamlands, and Nyarko is excited to use this opportunity as a honeymoon for her and Mahiro. Nyarko's enemy has tracked them down again, and he sends his minions to attack them, and a horde of night gaunts and ghouls appear. Shantakun defends them but is quickly defeated along with Mahiro. Nyarko and Kyuko take out their chainsaw and lasers and attack with their close combat skills and defeat the horde. The group take Mahiro to the nurse's office to recover, and Nyarko tries to use the situation to her advantage but finds that Kyuko had swapped herself with Mahiro's bed. The enemy watches from the school gate and is revealed to be Nyaryo, the older brother of Nyarko, who has been miserable all his life because his younger sister graduated from a better college at the top of her class and has a good job, while he is unemployed and penniless. To head home, Nyarko turns Shantakun into his motorcycle form, and they start to ride off, but on the way Nyaryo gets in their way and Nyarko runs over his big toe, and the pain forces him to flee. That night, the chief calls and tells Nyarko that their mission is complete as the murderer has left the planet. Mahiro is horrified that they will continue to use his house, as Kyuko lied about leaving Earth. Suddenly, Mahiro gets a call that his parents will be home in 40 seconds. Mahiro has precious few seconds to come up with an explanation for the girls at his house. He tries to look to them for answers, but they are useless, and he tosses them out of his house and cleans up the place. The girls are persistent and they return anyway. And when Mahiro's mom Yuriko arrives, she catches them in a compromising position. Mahiro tries to explain to Yuriko the situation, but Nyarko suddenly introduces herself as Mahiro's wife. Kyuko also tries to call herself Nyarko's wife. When she hears that a Nyarlathotep and a Cthulu is in her home, Yuriko arms herself with multiple forks, and Nyarko is shocked that Mahiro does have a family history of god hunters. Yuriko almost attacks, but the adorable Shantakun intervenes and calms the situation down. Nyarko insists that she is here to protect Mahiro and not to eat him. They explain the situation to her, and Yuriko reveals that in her day job she is a god hunter that travels the world to hunt and kill gods. Mahiro's dad also knows about her real job and supports his wife. Kyuko tries to get affectionate with Nyarko, and Nyarko is forced to deal with her. Yuriko apologizes to Nyarko for the misunderstanding, and when Nyarko asks if they can continue to use Mahiro's house to look after the earth, Yuriko agrees. Nyarko proclaims her love for Mahiro, but Yuriko states that she can't consider Nyarko her daughter-in-law because she wants Mahiro to have a normal life. Yuriko insists that the two should stay friends, which devastates Nyarko. On her god-hunting trip, Yuriko also brought back many presents, including game consoles, which makes Kyuko very excited. Meanwhile, a mysterious woman arrives at the outskirts of the city, promising to take over the earth. Mahiro is tasked with making food for everyone and Nyarko arrives to help cook, but Mahiro is suspicious of her alien ingredients. When Nyarko starts to cry, Mahiro reluctantly decides to let her help if she sticks to human ingredients. Meanwhile, Kyuko and Yuriko bond over their gaming addictions. The next morning, Nyarko reveals the custom body cushions she ordered from Mahiro, but they are quickly stolen by Kyuko. Yuriko arrives and stops the two of them from fighting over the cushions, and her scary look makes them flee to school early. Meanwhile, while Mahiro is walking to school alone, a blonde kid runs into him. The kid thanks him and leaves, calling Mahiro older brother. At school, Mahiro is tired of the girls' embarrassing antics, while Nyarko and Kyuko gossip with Tamao. Nyarko asks for Tamao's help with Mahiro and the reporter agrees. Outside of school, the blonde kid continues to be incredibly lost. At lunch, Nyarko tries to feed Mahiro more alien food and he refuses. Kyuko also reveals her sandwich is actually a Dunwich. Mahiro sees that Kyuko is reading a discontinued manga, and Nyarko reveals that discontinued manga and shows are often picked up by alien publishers outside of Earth. After school, the blonde kid is being chased by dogs. They are lost and looking for an important person, and Mahiro gets some burgers for them. They run into Nyarko and Kyuko, who recognize the kid as Hasuda, the god of wind, and who was their student council president in space kindergarten. He had previously been working in a space library as a space librarian when his father called him to Earth to help with business, and he reveals that he was sent to meet Mahiro's mom Yuriko. Kyuko notices that Hasuda seems to have feelings for Mahiro and tries to nurture their relationship, and Nyarko starts to fight with her for adding another rival. Before the group return home, they wonder what is the relationship between Yuriko and Hasuda's father, and Nyarko comes up with a grand soap opera story where they are secretly brothers. Hasuda becomes upset because if they are brothers, they can't be lovers. They arrive home to see Yuriko's mom and Hasuda introduces herself while Nyarko threatens Hasuda, saying she had already claimed Mahiro. Suddenly, a nun appears and kidnaps Yuriko, saying that she would not let Hasuda take Yuriko. The nun states that whoever has Yuriko will rule space, but when the nun whispers something to Yuriko, she suddenly agrees to leave. Mahiro sends the girls to attack, but the nun whispers into Kyuko's ear and she turns on them and fights Nyarko. The nun declares victory and summons a flying DeLorean. She also summons a barrier that Nyarko can't break, but Hasuda is able to destroy, but they are unable to stop the nun from flying away with Kyuko and Yuriko. The group relax in Mahiro's house and Mahiro is angry that they aren't doing anything to save his mother. Nyarko insists that the Planetary Defense Organization is working to track them down, and they find Hasuda squatting in Mahiro's room. They try to determine what secret Yuriko must be hiding, and they wonder if her pet name for Mahiro, Synonium, is the key to the puzzle and is some unknown and powerful element. Nyarko gets a call from the chief, who is angry that Kyuko has betrayed the organization. Nyarko promises to do her duty and kill the troublesome Kyuko. She also reveals that the organization has tracked Yuriko's location to the island of Arlae Land, but since Yuriko consented to leave, the organization cannot offer them help. Mahiro is determined to go to Arlae Land anyway, and Hasuda joins them as well. To get to Arlae Land, Nyarko conducts a ritual to summon her pet Nephrin car to transport them to the sunken island. Mahiro wonders why they haven't used her car earlier, and Nyarko states that it was too soon for the show to reveal she had a car. They drive the car underwater and are swarmed by a horde of deep ones. Nyarko gains enough charge to use the car's unlimited torpedoes to fight back against the minions of the Cthulu organization. Suddenly, they run into Dagon Kun, a god of the Cthulu organization, and they almost make it to the city before they are stopped by Hydra-chan. As Mahiro sinks in the ocean, he starts to glow, and he wakes up on the shores of Arlae where Hasuda had saved him. Hasuda points out that his charm probably also saved him, and that he performed mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on Mahiro. Before they try to find the others, Hasuda confesses his love to Mahiro and says that their gender doesn't matter. Mahiro states that after 25 million years the universe undergoes a cycle, and that after 25 million years they can try to have a relationship, and he pinky swears with Hasuda this promise. They run into the palace to find Nyarko confronting Kyuko. Hasuda and Mahiro head into the palace to find Nyarko confronting the brainwashed Kyuko. Mahiro pleads with them not to fight with each other, and Kyuko lets them go as she fights Nyarko. Nyarko is normally stronger than Kyuko, but since she can't transform, she tricks Kyuko by pretending she has photos of herself in a swimsuit. Kyuko falls for the trap and is defeated. She tries to submit to Nyarko, who demands to know why Kyuko has turned on them and is shocked by what Kyuko tells her. Mahiro and Hasuda arrive at the laboratory where Yuriko is being held, and they find out that the Run kidnapped her to help her company create the best gaming console. This is because Yuriko is a huge gamer and one of their most valuable customers. Nyarko and Kyuko arrive, and they reveal that Hasuda's father runs a rival gaming company, and the nun is determined to beat his company in the upcoming console war for the best neural gaming console. However, Yuriko, who has been examining the consoles, tells them that the company will not do well, because it seems the company has invested enough into a library of game exclusives. Nyarko turns into her armored form to prepare for a fight. But Lai the nun gets a phone call saying that she has been fired from the company. Lai is determined to keep her job and turns on the palace's defenses. And the palace is filled with monsters that are stuck in a virtual reality zombie game who attack them. However, Yuriko is able to disable and defeat the monsters with her forks. Since the next generation console is bugged, Lai allows them to destroy it. And since Kyuko has a great love for games, she sadly destroys the console. Hasuda later thanks Mahiro for their help and leaves, but they find out later he has transferred into their class so that he can be closer to Mahiro. As thanks for saving her, Yuriko decides to take them all on a beach trip, and Mahiro is reluctantly forced to come. Mahiro's normal friends also come to the trip, and they're not sure what Shantakun is. And that night, Nyarko forces Hasuda to take his bath alone as they are now rivals. Nyarko then later ambushes Mahiro at night, but Mahiro defends himself and traps Nyarko using forks to his bed. Later at breakfast, Nyarko tries to exaggerate the night before, but Mahiro tells everyone nothing happened. Hasuda runs away crying while Nyarko tries to come up with baby names. Mahiro tries to ask his mom Yuriko for help, but she is starting to approve of Nyarko, and the Cthulu girl is excited about a potential future with Mahiro as she comes up with more schemes. Mahiro goes to the beach to clear his head, and he meets Hasuda, who is quickly defeated by Nyarko. Nyarko tries to take him on a date, so he is forced to hide, and he later finds Kyuko playing video games in a beach hut. But Kyuko is still depressed over the console game war, so Mahiro tries to cheer her up. They find Lahi is on the beach too, who reveals that after she was fired, she started a takoyaki stand on the beach. She also apologizes to Hasuda for interfering with his father's company. Mahiro later finds out that the takoyaki is made from Cthulhu and tries to warn his friends from eating the food. Nyarko tries to get Mahiro to go on a date with her, but becomes depressed when he tells her that he does not like her at all. Yoichi tells Mahiro that he might have been too harsh, and Kyuko tries to take advantage of the situation before Mahiro steps in. Yuriko then arrives and tells Mahiro to be kinder to Nyarko because she has fought so hard for them. Mahiro ultimately apologizes to Nyarko and asks her on a date into town, and the two go shopping and eat food together. They end up going to a shrine and then buying sparklers at the festival to use at sunset. Nyarko later tells him that she enjoyed their date, and that at the shrine she prayed for happiness with him and she will never stop loving him. The next day, Yuriko takes the group souvenir shopping together, and as they have fun, Yoichi teases Mahiro, who can't stop thinking about Nyarko's confession. At the store, Mahiro finds an old gaming console and clicks the play button. He suddenly wakes up at home where his mother Yuriko is acting very strange. Mahiro wonders what happened to the group, and he runs into Nyarko, who seems to be acting very innocent. He also sees Kyuko, who has become soft-spoken and treats him kindly, as well as Hasuda, who has become sporty. Mahiro later finds Yoichi has become a gaming NPC, and Lahi arrives to tell him he is trapped in a dating simulator game which has eaten the group. Lahi tells him that the characters of the gaming sim have fused with his friends, and to leave the game he needs to get to one of the game's endings. Before Lahi's signal is interrupted, she warns him to be careful. Secretly, most of his friends are not as affected as they seem and want to use the game for their own goals. Nyarko approaches Mahiro and insists they set as many flags as possible together so they can leave the game. She tries to make a swimming event, but Kyuko interrupts them. Mahiro then rapidly experiences different game events, from an encounter with Hasuda, Kyuko attacking him, and Nyarko trying to perform a song. Mahiro later has to work in a cafe with Nyarko, and at the cafe, Nyarko and Kyuko start arguing with each other. Exhausted, Mahiro goes home, and Yuriko asks him if he has chosen a love route to pursue so they can leave the game. A tired Mahiro goes through many game events, and on Christmas he is given a mini Hasuda from the real Hasuda, lingerie from Kyuko that she takes back for herself, and a marriage registration from Nyarko which he tears up. She then gives him his real present, which is a scarf she made for him. The game then forces the characters to fight each other, and the three fight to get their own game ending. Mahiro then finds himself locked in a closet with Tomo, who confesses to him. At the duel, Nyarko barely wins and is able to get to Mahiro at the game's closing event at a hilltop tree. She asks for a kiss so they can finish the route and leave the game. And although uncertain at first and embarrassed, Mahiro kisses Nyarko and they finish the game. The group then return to the real world, having no memory of what happened, except for Mahiro, who remembered everything. And that night, Mahiro has a dream about his kiss with Nyarko, waking up in the morning to Nyarko hiding in a body pillow, so he kicks her out. Later at school, Tamao cheers up Nyarko, and Mahiro tells her they need to go grocery shopping because Yuriko will be hunting monsters. Nyarko plans to ditch Hasuda and Kyuko so she can get a date with Mahiro, but her attempts to attract Mahiro only work on Kyuko. They all end up trying on glasses, and everyone ignores Kyuko. After they try out different pajamas at a store, Nyarko gets a call from headquarters about the Dreamlands. The Dreamlands are important for protecting human dreams, so Nyarko has been ordered to look into issues there. Suddenly, Nodens arrives on stage declaring himself ruler of the earth, and Lahi arrives as a magical girl to fight him. But she later runs away because it was all a kid's play. And that evening, Tamao suddenly confronts them and attacks. Mahiro then wakes up after somehow swapping bodies with Nyarko. Hasuda explains that an alien time traveler named Isuka arrived to protect the Earth and has temporarily taken over Tamao's body. She also apologizes for accidentally switching Mahiro's and Nyarko's bodies. Isuka has been sent to this time period because extreme members of her race plan to subvert the consciousness of the human race. She then leaves saying she will fix their body switch problem tomorrow. Mahiro has trouble adapting to Nyarko's body, and Kyuko tries to take advantage of the situation before Mahiro fights her and Hasuda off. She then notices Nyarko is acting strangely happy. To better defend himself, he manipulates Kyuko into keeping watch over his own body and Hasuda in exchange for a future favor while he is Nyarko. But at school, Nyarko takes advantage of the situation by asking Mahiro and her body to marry her. Nyarko then tries to confess to him and the teacher kicks them out. Isuka and Tamao's body arrives and apologizes for being late to school as she spent all night playing video games. They feed her food and she tells them she can switch their bodies back that night. But Isuka states that in her time period the Earth had been destroyed by aliens, and the time travelers are not sure why. At school they notice Yoichi is missing, so they investigate his house to find that he has been taken over by an extremist named Isurugi. He plans to use a machine to take over the minds of humans so his species can have better movies and video games. Since Nyarko is still in his body, Mahiro asks Hasuda and Kyuko to fight for them. However, Isurugi uses a device to cancel their powers. Isuka arrives and cancels his device, but then he cancels her device. Eventually, Isuka runs out of battery and Isurugi's device is unleashed. But the device doesn't seem to do anything, so they quickly defeat Isurugi. Suddenly, the president of the extremists communicates through the device and reveals he has fooled Isurugi, and the device will actually destroy Earth. He represents aliens who despise entertainment, and they want Earth eliminated to protect space children from corruption. The group attacks the alien device, with Mahiro using Nyarko's body to protect Yoichi. But when he is almost killed by the alien, Nyarko takes the hit. They grieve over the fallen Nyarko, but she was just faking injuries so she can kiss Mahiro. Nyarko reveals that she used the black charm from earlier to protect his body, and their distraction gives Isuka enough time for her device to charge and switch their bodies back to normal. With Nyarko back in her body, she transforms into her armored form and easily destroys the machine. Isuka then thanks them, and she leaves with Isurugi. But Isuka actually didn't leave, because she wanted to stay with Tamao and play video games. And that night she teases Tamao about her crush on Mahiro. One day while trying to take a nap, Mahiro becomes angry that his house is full of aliens that just want to play video games. Suddenly a girl named Gyutan and her butler Roy arrive at the house, explaining to Mahiro that his mother Yuriko invited them to visit. Yuriko explains over the phone that the girl seems lost, and she sends Gyutan to see if Nyarko can help. Nyarko calls her headquarters and the space police to see if they can help, and she wants to use this opportunity to prove to Yuriko she would be a good future mother. Nyarko tries to teach Gyutan the benefits of dating sim games, but Mahiro quickly intervenes. The kitchen suddenly explodes and several insects appear, and Nyarko uses her mirror to capture them. Mahiro starts to argue with her, but gets embarrassed remembering their kiss together. Since they've caused a mess in his house, Mahiro kicks them all out except for Gyutan. He cleans up the living room and feeds her, while Roy explains that Gyutan normally has many maids. He wonders if this is what having a little sister is like. And the rest of the group arrive upset that Mahiro made food without them. They chase him throughout town past Yoichi, Tamao, and Logi, who are unable to hide him. Suddenly, Mahiro runs into Shaggoths in the streets, and Nyarko arrives to defeat them in her armored form so she can get more combat experience. Kyuko and Hasuda also help fight them off, but at the end of the battle they discover Gyutan was injured in the scuffle. An angry Mahiro scolds Nyarko and the group and orders them to all go back to space. But that night they are missing for dinner, and the next morning a panicked Mahiro finds out that everyone is gone. Mahiro is confused but is at first happy he can have a relaxing morning. However, he grows restless over time and starts to miss the others. Since he has nothing to do, he goes into town, but he quickly discovers that everyone in the city has seemingly disappeared. He tries calling all the contacts on his phone, but nobody picks up. Mahiro goes to the school to investigate, but he doesn't find anyone there while he remembers the fun times he had with his friends. He also investigates the shopping district, the beach where they all went to, and the shrine he prayed with Nyarko, but he doesn't find anyone. Suddenly the sky darkens and he is attacked by a monster. Mahiro is cornered, so he asks Nyarko for help, but she doesn't appear. Lucky for him, he had her mirror, so Mahiro is able to capture the monster. Gyudatin arrives and Mahiro asks her if she can somehow reverse the situation. But the alien girl's butler Roy transforms and attacks him. Nyarko suddenly appears from the mirror as she hears him call for help, and she is able to use her power to break a spell that is trapping him in a false reality. Roy reveals that he captured Mahiro because he is a big fan of dating sims, and she wanted to use his relationship with Nyarko to have her lead him to the ultimate dating game. The fight with the Shaggoths was also his plan to drive a wedge between Mahiro and Nyarko, so that he can punish Mahiro for disliking dating sims. Nyarko turns into her armored form, and with Kyuko and Hasuda, the three fight against Roy's minion. The group also receive reinforcements, with Yuriko riding Shantakun and Lai using her ice magic. And when Roy temporarily captures Nyarko, Mahiro helps free her and she is able to summon her ultimate close combat sword and defeat him. They call the space police, who will come to get Gyudatin, and the alien girl apologizes for the trouble she has caused, and Mahiro gets jumped by everyone. That evening they celebrate with a barbecue together, and while they are alone together, Nyarko confesses to Mahiro once more. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.